Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com. Hey, it's Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and executive director of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the nonprofit behind this podcast, and Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, and Journey to Esquire, the blog. I'm excited. We got another great guest for you today. We're going to pass the mic to Zachariah Wade. He's a Pinellas County in Florida trial attorney, and he is born and raised in Florida, grew up in Orange and Marion Counties. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Florida A&M University, known as FAMU, Go Rattlers. He earned his law degree from Stetson University, College of Law, right here in Tampa Bay. And during law school, he became a member of the #1 trial team in the nation and competed across the United States. After law school, he became an Advocacy Skills Trainer for the Stetson Trial Team and now fills the position of Adjunct Professor of Trial Advocacy with the College of Law. Before he joined his current practice with Russo, Peltier, and Sullivan, he was actually serving the people as an assistant state attorney. While there, he earned his stripes in the courtroom, and he's handled all kinds of criminal cases, including drug crimes, domestic violence, DUI, violent crimes, sexual batteries, traffic fatalities, and even murder. So we'll get to hear a little more about that from our guest today, Zachariah. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit of my story.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. So before we go into your current practice, because I know you post a lot on social media and share some of your wins and your losses and just the realities of being a defense attorney, let's go all the way back and talk about why you wanted to be a lawyer in the first place.
I considered myself a professional student. I went to FAMU and I was able to get through 4 years of undergrad on an academic scholarship. So I really felt like I had an opportunity to go into whichever direction I wanted and not have the burdens that some people do because finances are a thing. And I said I considered myself a professional student. I meant that because I was looking around at my peers. And more than that, I was looking around at successful people that I looked up to. And I didn't really follow what they do. Instead, I followed how they did it. Take, for example, an NFL player. I realized that those guys, they started playing football, most of them when they were, knee-high to a grasshopper. So I realized that one thing I had been doing from as early as I could remember was just learning. I've always had a thirst for knowledge. And so I realized that after undergrad, I needed to go do something else. My major at the time was political science, and I just wanted to follow that through. And looking at the careers that, sort of breed from that major, being a lawyer was certainly one of the most attractive ones. But what really solidified my decision and said, yeah, I'm going to go to law school and be a lawyer, is that in my last 2 years of college, as a nation, we really started to experience something unique. It ultimately gave light to like the Black Lives Matter movement, but I'm talking about like those first names that started popping up. The first one that caught my attention was Trayvon Martin. And I really started watching that case. And I'm not saying that that case is my ultimate reason why, but I realized that there was a lot going on and that there was a lot of perspective that was being missed. And I wanted to be one of the people that could influence that system with my perspective. And to do that, I knew that I needed to be a lawyer.
Yeah, that's a great story. For a lot of people, there is something that caught the national attention or the news that really motivated them to be more knowledgeable about our legal system and then ultimately to influence it, like you said. And as someone living in Florida and born and raised in Florida, that probably hit close to home for you as well with the Trayvon Martin case.
Yeah, I grew up in Orlando. I went to high school at Edgewater High School, which is maybe an hour from where that all happened. I even went there. I got in my vehicle once, and once, it was not such a populated area. I went into that neighborhood and I just kind of stood there and took it in like this is real. These things happen.
Yeah, and I've definitely felt that as someone who's from New York, moving here and reading like Devil in the Grove. And I had cases out there in Lee County and driving through there, and you definitely have a sense of the history, especially when you show up as a Black attorney in these
Yeah.
spaces, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've had this experience showing up and you're one of the few or the only, and you're looking around and people are like, "You're the lawyer? Really?" There's that surprise. It's like, "Yep, I'm the lawyer. It's me."
I like when that
So,
happens now.
oh, do you?
Oh yeah, I enjoy it because when you see it coming, you can create a moment.
Yeah,
You can create a moment. So and
yeah.
sort of respectfully educate that person about their own preconceived notions.
Yeah, yeah. I had an article that was really popular about that, and some people were surprised. They're like, "That's still happening?" I'm like, "Yes, it is very much still happening." And now that you're a professor too, you're in the same position as me, where you get to deal with students who are in the place you were when you were a law student, trying to figure out the legal system. So I always tell my students, hey, you are the ones who are supposed to know how this works now. You can't just be like people in the news and people on this and commenting on social media, just saying stuff, right? You understand it's much more nuanced and a lot of layers involved. So now you're graduating from FAMU. You were part of the Marching 100,
Yeah,
right? Got
yep,
your
yep,
education
absolutely.
on, got your swerve on, because I know y'all had fun with that.
Oh
So
yeah.
what's your process of, applying to law school and choosing which one to go to?
So it started with something that they did at FAMU called Law Day. They took one of the gymnasiums and they just flooded it with tables and had law schools and their recruiters come and giving out pamphlets and the booklets and my only thing was I went to every school that I thought I might want to apply to, and I just asked them what LSAT score they wanted and what GPA they wanted. And that was my in. And that just allowed me to start conversations with people. But after I left, I took all of those pamphlets and I put them on my wall in my apartment. I thumbtacked them all in order of like, greatest to least in my mind. And that way I had a visual every day. I could see what the LSAT score was that I needed to be shooting for and what GPA I needed to maintain to get into that specific school. From there, FAMU had a specific course that was designed to help us prep for the LSAT. That wasn't great for me because I'm an individual learner. I really like to be by myself and take my time to just digest things on my own. So I also got one of the Kaplan books, and every day I tried to sit down and teach myself how to take the LSAT. But ultimately, I did not have the success that I wanted. I got what I think is a pretty low score on the LSAT, and that was after months of really trying and realizing that I wasn't learning how to take this test. I was just going through questions and kind of defeating myself. And there did come a point where I was like, man, this is those schools up there, they don't want these numbers. So I took the LSAT again. I changed my strategy in terms of studying and prep. I tried some new things, talked to some people who did better than I did. And I took it again and I got the exact same score the second time around. So I was just sort of confused about how the whole process was going because I thought I was learning. I thought I had some strategies, but I didn't improve. But I took it for what it was. I reached out to the recruiters that I actually had been speaking to and letting them know, what my goals were. And that's when I realized that it's a whole package sort of thing, a law school application. And there was a lot more that I had to offer other than my GPA and my LSAT score. Obviously those things matter. You can't get too far without good numbers. But my numbers weren't bad. I just wanted to do better. So with that, I just started applying, and I had people who helped me with the process. I had some people who helped with application fees. Just, people come around and push you in the right direction sometimes. So,
Yeah, that's a great story. I know a lot of people who took it twice and got the same score after studying. And
yeah.
we have to realize that's why the LSAT has its limitations. It is not meant to define you and your success as an attorney. It's just one of these objective measures that law schools like to use. And it's, there's some other things like the GRE is being considered, some parts of the LSAT are going to change. So, if you haven't taken it yet, just be mindful that those changes are coming up
Yeah.
and that there may be other avenues for you. But you also can't just give up, right? If you put in a good effort, then at least you left it all on the table,
Yeah,
and you made work.
if I could go back and give that younger version of myself one piece of advice, it would be that you have to treat the LSAT kind of like you do the FCAT when we were back in school or whatever they call it now. It's a standardized test. And what I learned that to mean, or what I understand that to mean, is that it doesn't necessarily test your intelligence. It tests how well you have learned how to take that test. I don't care if seven people are in line and the third tallest has to be in the back and Susie has to be second. That's not intuitive. That doesn't mean you're a stupid person. It means you haven't figured out how to put all these pieces together. So I think that's important to remember. It's not an intelligence thing. You have to figure out how to ride that specific bike because it's different.
Exactly. And then forecast, right, what you may need to do for the bar exam, because the bar exam is the same way.
Yeah.
It's not testing your intelligence, it's testing can you do these specific tasks in the time period that we give you in this space with like 1,000 other people or 100 other people, depending on what jurisdiction you're taking it in. And so for a lot of people, the testing part is tough, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be a good lawyer because lawyers don't take tests all day. We're going to get into some of the stuff, what your day looks like now. And so you ultimately land on Stetson University College of Law. So do you enjoy your time there? I'm guessing you did since you went back.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed my time at Stetson a lot. Stetson was a polarizing experience for me because I went to FAMU, the number one HBCU in the nation, one of the biggest Black colleges in the country. And that was great for me because I'm biracial. And that really helped me understand the Black side of my culture, really get a grip on things because it's an experience. If you've never been to FAMU, just go on a Friday and you'll understand. And I went from that to Stetson, which is in Gulfport, Florida. I think in my entire 1L class, there might have been 5 or 6 Black students out of what, maybe 200, 2 or 300, something like that. There weren't a lot of us. At first, that was intimidating. I won't lie. I was sitting next to people in classes who, they live in condos and they're driving a Benz to class, and I'm in my Honda Accord over in student housing. So but I loved it because it was such a contrast. It showed me like the other side. And I don't mean that from a racial perspective. I just mean just a different level of operating because law school teaches you how to think differently. So as I'm there in this unique environment, I really poured into it. It was also a huge benefit for me because going back to, my original reasons for wanting to go into law school, this was great because on one hand, it can be uncomfortable when you're the minority in a group of people and the conversation is about a hot topic and everybody looks at you like, what is your group of people think? And that's not always fair. But when you're around a group of people who are willing to have an open-minded conversation and really understand, not necessarily like cut each other's argument out from under, just understand, just talk. Those types of things started happening at Stetson. There was some pushback in the other direction too, right? Because not everybody's progressive and wants to have every conversation. But being at Stetson and being able to realize that in higher education, there are groups of people who are aware of these issues and working towards them and doing things about them, that was fantastic for me. On top of just learning how our system of laws work, that was profound, eye-opening.
It is. There's a great article talking about, the trauma of law school and law school education that some people experience. When you read like the Dred Scott case, oof, ouch, right? And then you read, maybe Yik Wo in criminal procedure or Korematsu in constitutional law, or all these cases where there's like this language in our body of law that speaks so harshly about a group of people. It can be tough, but then like you said, now I understand it, I can leverage it better, can make connections with the other students as well, learn their perspectives. And we have a blog post coming out. Our blog post editor this year is a young Black man, and that's what his blog post is about, right? The declining enrollment of men in general in law school, but in particular Black men. If the trend continues, there may be no Black men in law schools in about 10 years. Now, we're hoping that trend does not continue, right? Make a shift.
Yeah.
Any message you might have for maybe young Black men who are considering law and maybe on the fence, or any encouragement you want to give to male law students?
If you have any idea about yourself as a lawyer, pursue it. Otherwise, you're giving up based on something that you can't even touch, right? An idea that might limit you is just never a good reason not to do something. I would say that in the legal community, perspective is what matters more than anything. It's the one thing that you can't learn from a law book or from reading the statutes. Experience, sure, but I'm talking about perspective. I'm talking about everything that you gained and dragnetted through your life before you became an attorney. That's still with you when you start practicing, and perspective matters. So law school is hard. I think what nobody prepped me for was that law school was kind of lonely because you just have to spend so much time by yourself, but it is worth it, because once you become an attorney, not only have you elevated, not only do you literally see that your mind works differently now, but you elevate the people around you. You honor the people around you. And if we're talking about generational stigmas, stereotypes, or hindrances, this is how you get over them. You change the trajectory of your life and the people who will come after you from you. And if you have any fire in you that makes you think, law school, but I could be a lawyer, that's your fire. Don't snuff that out just from the idea that it might be hard or it's expensive and you don't know. Those questions will always be there to keep you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah, that's great advice. So now you're graduating from Stetson, and they're known for their trial advocacy, right? That's their thing. When I was on
Yeah.
the mock trial team at FSU Law, we were like, all we gotta do is beat Stetson. If we beat Stetson, we're good. We don't even have to win the thing. Just
That's
beat
funny.
Stetson.
It's like that. It's like that.
I know, and y'all were serious about your stuff. We're over here like, ooh, free trip to wherever, right? Miami. And y'all like, nope, we're here to
We
work.
didn't get to have fun. Nope.
So now you're about to graduate, like a lot of law students in their last year, they're figuring out, where am I going to work? Talk to us about your process of getting your first job.
So my first job was a prosecutor, and I grew up around crime. I don't know how else to explain that. I grew up in some rough environments, and I saw things that children, just aren't supposed to see. It was one of those things. And so crime was just something that I kind of understood. Not to say that I'm a criminal or I was out here breaking the law, but I just get it, unfortunately. So when I was at Stetson, I applied for my character and fitness clearance from the Florida bar, and I was a CLI, a certified legal intern, and I started interning at the state attorney's office. One, because like you said, I was on the trial team. I wanted to be in the courtroom. I knew that. So it was either going to be prosecutor or public defender. And I started with the prosecution clinic because in my mind, going back to the beginning of the conversation, I wanted to learn enough to be able to have influence. I wasn't trying to kick the door down and change laws and, this is the way it should be, not be a maverick, but to understand and make sure that our system of laws is moving forward the right way. So I've thought about what happens in the courtroom, and I likened it to a game of baseball. And I feel like sometimes as a defense attorney, you're just trying to get a hit. Like a homer would be great, but if I can get on base, geez, that would be enough. And that's sort of, the defeating principle sometimes that people have to overcome. But as a prosecutor, you're the pitcher. You can walk that guy. You can throw a strike. You can, you know what I mean? You control the pace more. It's not all under your hands because the umpire still is the guy running the game. That's the judge. But I wanted to be the person who was the decision maker and not responding. So I started as an intern at the state attorney's office. That was when Mr. Bernie McCabe was there. May he rest in peace. And I just did everything I could. Local ordinance trials, actual trials, batteries, I think there was a DUI, just little tiny things that I could handle as an intern. But I realized then that this is what I wanted to do, not just from the prosecution side, meaning getting a conviction, but from all of the work that people don't know prosecutors do. That's when I was exposed to it. And that's when I realized this is what I want to be. This is what I need to be doing. And what I mean when I say that is nobody knows how many cases prosecutors drop just from reading a police report, reading a statute, reading the law and saying, I think they may have made a mistake on this one. So this was going to be a no information. When I realized, like, oh, okay, you actually do have the ability to make sure that only the things that happened according to the law move forward, that sold it for me. Plus the fact that I could be in the courtroom every day, I loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand prosecutorial discretion. And depending on which office you're in, you may have more or less as an assistant,
Right.
prosecutor. But even the head prosecutor, they really do control the pace. Like you said, your analogy was spot on. So can we reflect back a little bit? You said Trayvon Martin case kind of got your attention. So now did you get a chance as a prosecutor to reflect back on that case? Did it change your mind about anything or the way things went or illuminate anything for you?
I mean, absolutely. I think now it's been reduced to when you have conversations about an older, high profile case like that, that now it's been settled and people have had time to go back and read a transcript or closely examine this thing or that thing. Now, in conversations, people would typically point out one thing and say, oh, but did you know this? And expect that to change another person's entire perspective about, oh, but did you know that he, I don't know if this is true, but a couple of years ago, his mom had to call the cops on him because he was mad or something like that. Like it wouldn't matter. And my point in saying all of that is the only conversations I've had about cases like that end up being that debates. But in terms of my own personal perspective about that case in particular, I mean, he should have been convicted. That's the long and short of it. That's just how
Yeah.
I feel. Looking back at it, it's not necessarily the individual case that ignited the fire or anything like that. It was all of them at the
Yeah.
same time. It wasn't just Trayvon Martin. It was Freddie Gray. It was Walter Scott. It was Eric Garner. I'm like, every week it seemed like there was somebody else who was being shot. And even if it was on video, nothing's happening. So, in terms of those cases, I still feel the same way. I think that perspective matters.
Hmm.
And I think that that's probably what was lacking the most from start to finish, specifically in that case.
Yeah, and a good point you made is that, when you become a lawyer, your whole community gets elevated because people then, of course, they turn to me. I was a lawyer at the time. Like, what's happening there? Why wasn't that witness prepared with somebody? Something people kept asking me. There was the young lady he was on the phone with.
Yep.
And I'm like, they did prepare her. But you don't know what it's like to sit in a courtroom with a judge staring down your face, a jury of people you don't know, and then on top of that, add all these cameras and two people trained to attack you while you're sitting up there. Like you don't understand what that's like. And so again, it's that our legal training helps us understand what we're seeing versus what the general public is just making a whole lot of assumptions about. But I kind of relish the opportunity to be able to educate someone and say, listen,
Sure.
these people are doing the best they can. I promise you, they're not sleeping. They're working 24/7 on both sides to make sure that the best case comes forward. But we're human beings, right? We're not following the script on a trial. This is not Law and Order in Suits. No one's following the script. Okay. So, alrighty. Well, now you're working as a private defense attorney. So what was that transition from being on the prosecutor side to switching to defense?
Well, how was it or what sparked it?
Either one,
Okay,
whichever
so
one you want to start with.
my son Kadel Sabali, he sparked it for sure. When he was born, I realized that there were just some things that I wanted to do for him that when you work for the government, you are limited in that capacity. So I just wanted to be able to provide something for my son that I didn't have, and that was just comfort. The I grew up pretty rough, like I said before. I remember instances where I came home and we had an eviction notice on the door, and that's horrible, right? As a kid to go through, and I just realized I want to be able to provide that sturdy foundation for my son. So I left, and that was really one of the hardest things I've ever done professionally because I love that job. And I'll say it now, it was the coolest job I'll ever have. I took advantage of every opportunity that I could. I've been up in the sheriff's helicopter. I've been on a couple ride-alongs in their undercover chargers, and I've been on the boats with the Marine unit. I've gone to see autopsies into the drug lab, and really I just did everything I could. One of my most notable memories from the state was being on the traffic homicide unit. And that was just a crazy, crazy set of experiences. And so walking away from all of that was incredibly difficult. There was a point where I saw myself as a lifelong prosecutor. I could easily do that forever, but I just realized that life was taking me in a different direction. And so now I practice defense.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna make the assumption that it pays a little better, right? And I
Just a
tell
little
my
bit.
students all the time, listen, I always tell them every prosecutor I know loved it, and they always like, lament having to leave, but the pay thing is real, right? I mean, we go to private schools, we have six-figure debt, and then once you start a family and have people depending on you and got a mortgage and a this and a that, and the realities of the finances start to catch up with you. So, I mean, there's no shame in that though. So, you have to kind of, you're not just making a living, you're also having a career and making a life. And so you want to make sure that all parts of your life support the lifestyle that
That
you
was
want to
good.
live.
Yeah, that was good.
Now we get to the part where you've given a lot of great advice already, but any messages that you want to give to new or aspiring law students, brand new attorneys, reflecting back and thoughts of encouragement, things to think about, the thing you wish you did, anything like that?
Find a mentor. I wish I had done that. I have people now who are still mentoring me, but they sort of had to insert themselves as a mentor. They had to come at me and like make sure, hey, come, come see me in my office, come talk to me, that kind of thing. And that's just part of my character. I'm just kind of a loner like that. I like to be by myself. I grew up in a very, very big family, always people in the house, but I always wanted to be alone. That was just like, that's just who I am. I would not be comfortable if my house was empty. I want it full, but get out of my room. That's how I grew up. And I approached law school that way too, where I'm in this community, but I want to be here. I want to do my own thing away from other people. And on some level, that suits everyone in law school because you have to figure out what works for you. But if I could reach back out to my younger self, I would say go find a mentor. Don't just look at the people who are immediately around you and ask one of them to give you advice. I mean, actually seek someone out. That would have made a big difference for me because the level of advice and support that I was getting from people who came to be my mentor, I think might have been more substantive or more well received if I went to them. And so if there's anything that you see yourself struggling with, find somebody who's mastered that and reach out to them. It doesn't have to be somebody older. It can be a classmate. So I guess generally my advice in that regard would be don't try to do law school alone. Don't try to do it alone. But there's always two sides to every coin. Recognize that nobody can help you. You're going to go visit your family and they're not going to know what you're talking about. They're not going to care too much because there's no understanding, not because they're not interested, but you just got to figure out what works for you. I would have said that to myself too. Law school is, some people do group studies, some people, don't, some people do this, some people do that. And the worst thing that I did for maybe the first month or two of law school was kind of stood in place looking around like this, like, what are you doing? What should I do that? Should I do that? Instead of just focusing in on me and asking myself, does this work for you? And if not, why are you doing it? That level of simplicity wasn't conveyed when you're thinking law school. Oh my God. No, it can be straightforward. So don't try to do it alone, but the things that you do have to do alone, give them their credit.
Yeah, that's good advice. And as professors, I will definitely tell people reach out to your professors. If any somebody, right? It's the professors and professors. I know y'all think all we do is teach, don't do anything else, but we know lots of other people. We're well connected, and we love helping students, right? Especially now, all students care about their grades. So if you want to talk to me about anything besides your grade, I am game
Let's
for it.
do
So
it.
reach out. What's great though, too, as we transition into something else we wanted to talk about, bar associations we love law students, and we love even college students interested in becoming lawyers. So what's been your involvement with the bar association?
So right now, I'm a member of the board of directors for the Clearwater Bar Association, but my membership in the bar actually started when I was in law school. There was a job opening for someone to run the lawyer referral service, and that was awesome because I just started to learn local attorneys just by, having their name in front of me and giving their info out all day. after having, become an attorney in practice, now I'm on the board of directors. So I'm heavily involved in terms of the events that we put on, the ongoings of the bar. But I think my biggest role is just letting people know what's going on, because there are so many benefits to joining any voluntary bar association that I think it's probably just not well known until you get in. That's now. When I was in law school, I was most closely involved with Menace, because at Stetson, like I said, there's a great community of Black lawyers and law students, but it's a small community, and you need that. You need your network. So that was a group of people who, specifically Danielle Weaver Rogers, shout out to her. She was my mentor, and she's one of the people that came to me and was like, "I'm your mentor." And that came through Menace. She made sure that I knew who she was, that she reached out. And that was just a fantastic benefit, because going from Tallahassee to Gulfport just on my own, that was a sort of a safety net, just a group of people to let you know that they're there for you. So I would definitely encourage reaching out to them.
Yeah, and that's the Fred G. Minnis Senior Bar Association. They're a bar association in Clearwater as well. So you mentioned some great benefits a lot of people don't know about. Can you tell us about some of them?
Well, networking first and foremost, right? That's being a lawyer requires a community. Nobody can do this on their own, even though all of us want to. Other benefits, obviously, CLE credits. You definitely need those as you move forward. What other benefits are? Well, learning, right? Because so specifically with the Clearwater Bar Association, there's all different types of lawyers. And so all year round, we have different events that cater to the different aspects of law. So you'll have an event that might cater to civil lawyers, criminal lawyers, elder law, family law. You just never know. So there's always a benefit there, because not many lawyers stay where they are. They branch out, they learn, they do different things. So, and it's nice to break up I don't want to say monotony, but it's, lawyers, we do a lot of the same things, so it's nice to break out and network and do those things as well.
Yeah, it is. And you all have a big event every year. Is it what is it called?
The oyster roast. That's the oyster roast.
Yeah, oyster roast. I'm like, it's some kind of seafood.
Yeah, it's called the oyster roast because it really is that. They have a big, like 3 or 4 pits out there. And the interesting thing about the oyster roast is that the judges actually shuck and serve the oysters for you. It's an opportunity to interact with the judges and for them, to serve. And it's fun. It's just an event where you have a lot of different firms come out. So think of a craft fair where you just have a lot of different booths and tents set up, different vendors, and just a lot of people enjoying themselves eating oysters. I don't eat oysters, but I barbecue, and we typically have barbecue there as well. So
what time of the year is that usually?
3rd week of March. I think this year it might be March 18th.
Okay, so in 2024, it's about mid-March, maybe around spring break time, it sounds like.
Correct, right when the weather gets nice.
Oh, yeah, but then all the people come to Florida. The kids are off. And then, like I was, telling you earlier, I love like family-friendly events, because all the galas and the parties, those things are nice. But once you have a small child like you and I do, we need something we can bring the kids to, because they want to spend time with mommy and daddy too, right? And meet all these people. So, has your son been out to any of these events with you?
Yeah, he came. The last event we had was at a restaurant called Bogota in Dunedin. We had a musical bingo, I think is what it's called. Like you play a song and you have to figure out what it is. I think that's musical bingo. And that was a great event for him, because like you said, it was something that he could have fun. A few other people brought their kids, and while the adults are over here playing musical bingo, my little guy jumped on the stage and he was dancing and jumping around. So that was cool. We also have picnics and things like that. Not all of them are kid friendly, but the ones that I can bring him, pretty much always going to do that.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm like, even if it's not kid friendly, just bring them along, because everyone loves a cute baby. Yeah, your son. I know your son is adorable. So he's a little social media star, and I used to post a lot with my son. He's 9 now, but with my daughter, I've been slacking. So I'm trying to bring her some more things so everyone can see her. But yeah, there's still life after law. You can still have kids and spend time with them on Saturdays. You're not giving up all your free time. But, I want to thank you, Zachariah, so much for joining us. What's funny, you and I are Facebook friends, and we finally met in person.
Yeah, it was weird.
I know, we're at the same table. We're like, wait, you're in IRL, right? In real life. So social media is a great way to meet people, but I'm so glad we're able to meet in person and connect on the podcast, because it's been great talking to you and hearing about the Clearwater Bar Association.
Thank you for having me. Sometimes when we go through experiences, we don't recognize that they might benefit another person in any way. So if there's anything I was able to say or remember to say that might benefit someone, then the purpose is met. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.